Hi, this is Joe with Wise Property Solutions and put together a PowerPoint that was shared with the membership at your recent annual meeting. And for those who weren't able to attend the meeting for other scheduling priorities and conflicts, we thought we'd make it available here so that you would have that information as well. So this is an overview of some things that happened in 2025 and also a discussion briefly of some planning that's been done over the last years for the resort that is of interest to all owners. This particular PowerPoint is going to deal with a range of topics from the planning process, the capital projects, owner support and resources we'd like you to know about, and just performance of the reserves overall. If you go back to 2015, which is the year we began working with Gatlinburg Falls, the association had roughly $246,000 in reserves in the bank. And at the end of 2025, that number had grown to 563,000. And so there's some significant growth that has occurred. And that's occurred because of a consistent and disciplined funding approach in each year's budget to ensure that those long-term capital expenses that everyone can reasonably assume are going to happen in the life of the resort and its owners are planned for and financially prepared for. And so that's what we're talking about with the reserve and reserve funding. The planning process itself is not guided by the board or the management, but rather by a third-party professional reserve study specialist, professional engineer, who comes on site and evaluates the common elements, the capital that you all own by way of the association, and makes assessment of its current condition and likely remaining useful life, and then puts price tags on those eventual maintenance and repair considerations, puts an approximate date on those. Inflation adjusts those dollars in an effort to help guide the association and its board in making informed decisions so that you are ready for those things when they happen. Generally, a reserve study is done about every 5 years. You'll notice that the first one was done in 2016, and then a second 4 years later in 2020. That's a little sooner than normal, and that was a product of the fact that in November of 2016 is when the resort sustained significant losses in the fires that occurred that year. And so after the fires and the cleanup and the work that happened there, the reserve study needed to be updated a little sooner to give a more accurate picture of where things stood post fire restoration and repair. The current reserve study has been and continues to be available to all owners through the portal. And if you'd like to see that, you can find it in the document section of your portal in the folder labeled Reserve Study. If you have questions about that, please reach out to Wise Property Solutions. We'd be happy to help you. These are updated periodically, roughly about 5 years. The reserve study performance to projections, if you look at the reserve study, you would see that at the end of 2024, the study envisioned that the reserve balances would be depleted to close to 32,000, when in fact they actually were 500,000 above that. That is a combination of things, some conservative financial management, but it's also really the timing of some capital projects. Reserve studies peg projects to particular years, and sometimes those projects don't have to happen quite as quickly. And so in this particular case, the largest project in the near term related to asphalt, and that work hadn't been done, and that accounts for the fact that we're so far ahead of projections because we just haven't done one of the biggest projects that the study rightly recognizes needs to happen at some point in the nearer term. Particularly to asphalt, there is a life cycle to asphalt from when it's put down to its proper maintenance, the 20 to 25 year typical useful life. Sometimes it's a little less. Um, and then what proper maintenance looks like over time. And so the study is a 30-year window. And so it is looking at um, that the paving in the resort that's already 20 plus years old is going to have need for investment on a couple of different occasions over the course of the next 30 years. Reserve studies are by their very nature more precise in the nearer term than they are when you're 25 and 30 years out. And so what we're primarily doing is preparing for the near term and planning more generally for the long term. The mill and overlay project is one that's in the reserve study, but it was envisioned to have occurred a couple years ago, and it has not for a variety of reasons. And we're kind of at that point now. It is budgeted to be in line with the association's reserve capacity, and it is in line with the reserve study. The board has directed that a civil engineer be incorporated into the project so that as it goes to bid, the project is bid with the expertise of a civil engineer. And then as the project moves forward, the quality and assurance of quality of the project are being monitored by somebody qualified to do that. The reserve study itself is, as I said, available online, and this is just a snippet of what it looks like. It identifies all of your capital elements, and it assigns to them a useful life. It assigns to them a quantity in terms of feet or yards or so forth, and you can see that as you review the study. It envisions how much time is remaining, what the cost of whatever the prescribed maintenance or capital investment is, and then the further out that investment occurs, it models it with an inflation adjustment in an effort to ensure that when the project comes, the funding is there. The benefits of approaching it this way is you don't have special assessments, you aren't caught off guard, and more appropriately, it extends the lifespan of your driveways and your road network within the resort. And frankly, it enhances the value in the resort by just making the resort and the area around all of your cabins look better, both for guests and prospective buyers. And both of those things enhance the value of your asset. As far as this particular project goes, it does not yet have a schedule or a definition of time frame, but the civil engineer would obviously be a part of that once the competitive bidding process has been run, and we would be updating owners. We envision it being a phased approach because we're trying to do it with minimal disruption to you and your guests. Looking back on last year's uh, uh, accomplishments, one of the big reserve projects that was completed at the close of the pool season because we could stage the contractors and not disrupt the pool during the pool season was a complete renovation of the men's and women's restrooms at the pool facilities at the resort. And it was done to basically modernize and clean up the look, deal with some uh, uh, deteriorated elements like the stall dividers and some tile and lighting and so forth. And so that has been completed, and I'll share some photos of that in a few minutes. We've also improved the trash compactor. The trash compactor was installed a couple years ago, and ongoing maintenance was an issue, and we've been able to get us an ongoing service contract with Waste Management that has been very helpful in keeping the compactor in use and functioning appropriately. That ongoing maintenance of the trash compactor was approved unanimously by the board in August of last year, and we've had a couple episodes since where component units of the compactor, a motor or a hydraulic system, had failed, and they've been very timely in getting out to get those addressed. On the pool maintenance, we've been working with a new pool contractor now for a couple of seasons, and that's RDA Services. And they've been doing a very good job out on site every day. And one of the things that has been done, and I want to draw your attention to because I think this also reflects a commitment to your guests and to your guest experience, every day as the pool is being serviced, when that service is completed, those the contractor is taking a photo of the pool to capture its condition as he's leaving every day, and those photos are being posted to the owner portal Monday through Friday on the owner portal so that you have visibility on a day-to-day basis as to what the pool is looking like, particularly in the pool season. And so this is a screenshot of the portal. Where you find it is in the document section in a folder labeled amenity folder, and then they're cataloged by year. And so I'll draw your attention. You'll see that the file name is a date, but you'll also see that the last modified is a date. And that is the file date tells you the date the photo was taken, and the modified date tells you the date we uploaded it. If the photo was taken on a Saturday or a Sunday, it's going to be Monday before we get it uploaded. But it does give you visibility to what the pool is looking like at any particular day of the season. Back to the bathroom renovation specifically, the photos that I'm sharing on the screen, the top photos in both reflect what was, and the bottom photos reflect what is now. And so obviously the stall dividers and the tile, and particularly the lighting, both the men's and ladies' rooms got the baby changing stations and enhanced lighting. And where that lighting is particularly obvious, a couple of these photos you can see we've removed the fluorescent lighting, which was kind of dingy and yellow, and replaced it with very bright LED can lights. And so it just has a very nice, bright, clean look. We told the contractor we wanted it to look as much like Bucky's bathroom as possible, and I think they got us there. So guests can look forward to that as the pool season gets underway, a significantly enhanced experience. As far as governance and financial controls, your board, made up of 5 volunteer owners in the resort, meets quarterly. They receive monthly financial reports, are part of the strategic planning. All owner communication that's directed to the board finds its way to the board by way of their packet or by way of submissions through the portal. Financial controls, every invoice of the association is reviewed and approved by the treasurer before those payments can be made. And outside of the treasurer's approval, there are multiple layers of oversight, both within our office and the board reviewing those in an effort to ensure appropriate and timely review. In addition to that, you as owners and members of the association have access to meeting minutes and financial reports and reserve studies 24/7 through the portal, so that you can also keep tabs of what's happening in your association. One issue that has come up and been a question that's come to our office in the form of concerns from owners has been about cabin management and whether the board or the management company was looking to impose a required management model where you would have to use a particular management company or a particular management model. To be clear, the association views those as your choice, and that's for you to decide. Owners are free to decide how they want to manage their cabin, whether that's fully self-managed, supported by like Airbnb or VRBO, or to hire a professional management company. The board doesn't have authority or inclination to compel a specific approach. And the board has expressed respect for owner autonomy and the viability of different models. So there is not now, nor has there been, a conversation about imposing some other kind of standard. Um, as far as staying informed and connected, there are several owner resources we've alluded to already. That's the owner portal. You can find financial reports, meeting minutes, reserve studies, the pool photos. Those are all things that are there. But you can also volunteer to participate, and you can also find other governing documents. And so those are all ways that we hope you will consider becoming further engaged. And again, as a summary just of the financial position, the association's reserve balance, and this is not total cash balance, this is just the capital reserve fund, at the end of last year had grown 129% in the decade and was at over $563,000. And that's because not just this board, but every board that has served for a decade has made it a priority to responsibly fund reserves to minimize those shocks of unintended special assessments for capital responsibilities that the association has and can reasonably know to anticipate. And so that's where we are right now. And I just want to take this opportunity to share that so that you can understand what's available to you by way of information and what factors are influencing the association's decision making to date. So if you have further questions or need assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at Wise Property Solutions or at services@wisepropertysolutions.com. We're happy to assist in any way we can. Thank you.